The story of my mental choices completely interfering with my school starts with Kanade, who is walking to the school and stumbles upon an adult magazine. He wonders what should someone do if they find a pervy magazine lying on the ground. According to him, one must look at it with no question but decide not to do so, as someone might see him doing it. However, the magazine pages turn with air and Kanade feels happy. Suddenly, a choice comes up in his mind that says that he either has to smell the magazine or ignore it. He ignores it but starts to experience a sharp pain in his head. Ultimately, he decides to smell the magazine, which makes the pain go away, but some kids see him doing it. He nicknames this phenomenon as absolute choice. Afterward, a monologue is played by some highly educated and intelligent people who depict that the choice an individual makes shapes the rest of their future. All the great wars and inventions were built because people picked the right choice, and even monkeys made the ultimate choice to walk on two limbs and become humans. Back at the present, before he left for school, he encountered her neighbor Daiko, who flirts with him and says that he looks just like her ex-husband. Kanade manages to get away from her and goes to the school. He reaches his class and meets with his friend Yukihara, who keeps calling him a maggot as today's fortune revealed that there would be a disaster today relating to bugs. Yukihara has a weird sense of and puts a goofy act in front of everyone, making everything a joke with her weird sense of humor. As she is scared, she has decided to laugh it off as a joke. He then receives the absolute choice and now has to either touch her chest or let her touch his chest. After he tells her to touch his chest, she starts to act all weird and makes him say the same words again and again. The other classmates feel disgusted hearing this. Yukihara keeps mentioning the word boobies and tells Kanade that a person just feels like it sometimes to say that word over and over again. However, Kanade gets the same absolute choice again and has to mention that word. To his surprise, Yukihara suddenly gets a change of personality and tells Kanade that she doesn't talk to a person that mentions that word. Afterward, Aoka arrives in the classroom through the building with the products of her company, as she is the daughter of the owner of a big company. Aoka brings some rather frisky products for women and tells everyone that her company is doing a survey. Hearing this, Kanade wonders why the company wants the opinions of some high schoolers for adult products. She even presents a money-maker toy that creates fake bills. Seeing the item, Yukihara expresses her desire to take the item back home with her. Later, when she calls Aoka a maggot, she presents them with maggot-flavored candies. Yukihara and Kanade eat the candy and end up puking. Yukihara thinks that this must be the disaster that the fortune foretold. He then gets absolute choice again and has to either strip his upper or lower laugh and scream like a true Japanese man or an Amazon warrior. He chooses the former, takes off his clothes and starts running around screaming. As he was being goofy, a girl named Yutage arrives at the classroom and he explains the whole situation around absolute choice to her when she asks what absolute choice he got. Yutage thinks that he should have chosen the first option out of fun, even though it would get him expelled from school. He decides to take care of the situation and jokingly tells Yukihara to burn Kanade's clothes if he doesn't get back to class in a minute. Hearing this, Kanade rushes back to his class to protect his already low dignity. After school, he runs into Daiko again and gets an absolute choice with both options revolving around Daiko holding her. After Daiko holds him violently and goes away, he gets two options again, where either a beautiful girl or Daiko will fall from the sky. He chooses the former and a girl named Chocolate falls on top of him from the sky. Chocolate sleeps at Kanade's home and wakes up when he comes to her. Kanade gets angry at her and wants her to explain her origins. Later, he made a bunch of food for her as she was really hungry. Kanade asks her name, but she fails to remember it and says that she has amnesia. As a reward for the food he made for her, Chocolate gives him a box of chocolates that she found in his wardrobe. Drooling over the chocolate, she starts looking at the chocolate with puppy eyes and behaves exactly like a dog would. Kanade tells her stuff to do like a normal person with a dog would tell his dog to do. Surprisingly, she does everything and even catches the box of chocolate like a dog when Kanade throws it. After learning that Kanade likes chocolate, she decides to name herself Chocolate. Kanade gets back on the topic and asks her why she is here. Chocolate tells him that she is here to help him get rid of the absolute choice curse. He asks her about who caused the curse and she says that it is God. Kanade then receives a call from God and asks him about what he wants. When he thinks that it is a prank call, the God decides to turn him into a girl in order to prove himself. Realizing that he is a girl, Kanade runs around the house and goes to the washroom. He strips and finds himself with a pair of women thingies. He tells God to return him back to normal, but God gives him an absolute choice again, where he has to remain a girl for the rest of his life or do a handstand and shout out the name of his favorite historical figure. He does the latter and asks God to change him back into a man, which he does so. Afterward, he asks God to tell him how to remove the curse. The god read from a book as the previous god didn't reveal much about this curse. He tells Kanade that he was sent a girl that would assist him and he has to do some specific missions in order to remove the curse. However, if he fails even one of the missions, he would have to stay with this curse forever. After that, God cuts the call and Kanade tries to call him back but the number isn't dialing anymore. He asks Chocolate if she remembers anything now, but she doesn't. Realizing how useless she is, Kanade tells her to leave but suddenly Absolute Choice gives him the option to let her stay or leave the house himself. He chooses the first one and prepares himself to go to school. As he approaches the school's premises, he receives a mission from God and a text message stating that he has to make Yukihiro laugh from the bottom of her heart before May 8th. At the class, he receives Absolute Choices again and squeals like a pig on the teacher's desk as the other option would make Daiki appear naked wrapped in straw rope. When Yukihara asks him about why he did it, Kanade tells her that he did that because she called him a pig earlier. Hearing this, Yukihara wants to sue him for stealing her intellectual property. Yudage arrives soon after and saves him from this weird situation by making him unconscious with a chokehold. Yudage mentions that she has a weird personality as she also has the Absolute Choice curse. She then hears about the missions and chocolate from Kanade. He goes to his home afterward only to get wildly tickled by Chocolate, who then suggests Kanade to do the same with Yukihira in order to make her laugh. On May 8th, he decides to make Yukihiro laugh by doing a bunch of stupid stuff during their time in school but fails to achieve his mission. After school is over, Yukihara decides to go to the school's rooftop and cries thinking that Yukihara must think of her as a weirdo. Kanade, who went after her secretly, sees all this. Yukihara thinks that Kanade is at fault too as he makes unfunny jokes and does a bunch of stupid. However, she considers it normal and wishes that she would be as normal as him. She then realizes that Kanade is behind her and hits his head on the concrete. After Kanade collects himself, she is about to leave so Kanade chases after and slips on a banana making Yukihiro laugh after all. He receives a congratulatory message from God and thinks that Yukihara laughs at the most dumbest of things. The next day, Kanade wakes up in his bed and finds Chocolate sleeping with him. He tries to wake her up when suddenly he receives another mission from God in which he has to spot the panties of a girl named Kanagi. At school, Kanade is thrown at a wall by Yukihara after he mentions what happened yesterday. He is then visited by Aoka and her friend who turns out to be Kanagi. Kanagi accidentally collides with Aoka and falls on the floor. She gets up and her belly starts to growl loudly as she is hungry. Suddenly an Absolute Choice comes and Kanade has to either ask Kanagi to show her panties or trade his with hers. Kanade chooses the first one and gets beaten up by Kanagi's fanboys. Later in class, a bruised Kanade tells Aoka with a straight face that he has to see Naga's panties at all costs. He is then visited by Kanagi who takes him to the stairs and says that she has no problem with what she said but she can only show her panties to the person she likes. Kanade apologizes to her but has to ask her to show her panties again because of Absolute Choice. He gets beaten up by her fanboys again and is visited by Aoka who decides to help him achieve his task. Aoka plans that the three of them would go out and Kanagi will end up showing her panties to him when she falls as she is really clumsy. During their trip, Aoka triggers a talk about panties and Kanagi asks what kind of panties he likes. Kanata says that he likes garter pants and has to say something lewd out loud because of Absolute Choice afterward, which causes the police to arrive at the spot. Later, Kanagi falls asleep and Kanata gets a choice to either flip her skirt or not. Kanade is unable to decide when suddenly Kanagi wakes up and adjusts her legs. Afterward, Kanade is attacked by a thief with a knife. Aoka, who is buying some stuff, arrives and kicks the thief. Kanade gets a look at her panties and suddenly receives a message from God saying that he completed his mission. The god tells him that Aoka was actually wearing Kanagi's panties and the mission was to look at them one way or another. Afterward, Kanagi and Aoka's skirts are lifted by a gust of wind and Aoka runs away embarrassed as Kanade got a look on their panties. One day in school, Chocolate arrives at Kanade's school and reveals to be studying as Kanade's studies assistant pet. She becomes popular in the class instantly because of her cuteness and all the boys immediately rush to her. Kanade, seeing all this, tells Chocolate to leave for school immediately. She finds his comments cold and says something that makes the whole class misinterpret her relationship with him. Kanade gets yet another Absolute Choice and goes with the first one that tells him to go into harem time with popular students of the school. Later in class, everyone gave a lot of sweets to Chocolate because of her cuteness while Kanade wondered when the harem time was going to start. Afterward, Yukihara starts to touch Chocolate's chest as Kanade probably does it at home himself. Kanade tells Chocolate to correct the misunderstanding, but she adds fuel to it because of her dumbness. Afterward, Aoka comes into the class wearing a mask that looks the same as Kanade. She remembers the embarrassing moment she had with Kanade yesterday and reveals that she is wearing spats this time. Sometime later, Kanade goes to the toilet and a girl named Nishino knocks at the door and goes inside the toilet after he opens the door. Nishino then starts to chase after him as she likes him, and a bunch of popular boys also tag along with her. Later, Kanade visits Yutage and asks her for some information about Absolute Choice. Yutage is unable to reveal much about it and asks Kanade if he gets headaches too when he tries to talk about the curse. When he confirms that, Yutage tells him that even though she completed all the missions and got rid of the curse of Absolute Choice, she still gets some headaches when she talks about it. She then inquires about Chocolate and is surprised to learn that she is completely useless and just lazes around the house all day, as her helper wasn't much, but he was way more helpful than her as he brought him snacks at least, while Chocolate just empties Kanade's food rations. Kanade then goes home and Chocolate asks him to get some sweets to satisfy her cravings. Even though he is tired, he brings some for her and gets a call from God again. Tired of him, he ends the call and turns off his phone, but God can still call him using his divine powers. He then tells Kanade that he can't remove the curse even though he is a god, as it was created by someone that neither he nor the previous god doesn't know about. The god suddenly has to cut the call as he had to destroy a universe-ending bomb in an alternate world. After the class is over, Chocolate finishes the sweets and sits beside Kanade. Kanade asks her why she is happy all the time. She tells him that she is happy to be useful to him and reveals that she is starting to like him more and more. The next day in school, a first-year welcome party is going to be held and Kanade's class gives out their opinion on what to do at the party. All of them give strange opinions, but Chocolate's opinion gets considered a bit by boys as they find her cute. Soon after, the most popular guy in the school, Sauga, visits the class and meets with Kanade, but the conversation is interrupted by Aoka and Yukihara, who drool over Sauga. Afterward, the student council president Sarah arrives and tells Kanade, Aoka, and Yukihira that there will be a battle between the Popular Five and the Reject Five. She smartly enlists them in the team of 5 and says that the fourth person is a third-year boy named Karasu, while the fifth one is a wild card entry. After Sarah leaves, Kanade gets another mission that states that he has to make every girl in the battle say that they like him. At the school, Kanade wanders around with Chocolate in order to find the fifth member. He runs into Aoko, who is doing the same, and asks her if he likes him as a person. When she says that she likes him, Kanade gets happy as he was the first girl to say that she likes him. He then goes to Yukihara, but she ends up saying that she hates him. Later, he meets with his childhood friend Yuragi, who just came back from her trip to America. Kanade doesn't like her referring to him as her big brother and tries to distance herself, but no matter what he does, she continues to cling to him. She asks Kanade why everybody thinks of him as a weirdo, as he was quite popular in middle school. Kanade then has to act sadistic with her because of Absolute Choice, but she ends up liking this side of him too. Afterward, she visits everyone in their classroom and ends up joining the Reject Five. There, Yukihara gets jealous and punches Kanade when all the girls hug him. The scene then shifts to the student council room where the Popular Five and Reject Five are having a meeting. However, Karasu from the Reject Five isn't present. Yukihara then gets into a heated argument with Akame of the Popular Five when she calls Yukihara flat-chested. Kanade is forced to stop the fight by saying something lewd because of Absolute Choice. Yuragi randomly says I love you to Kanade, which makes another girl in the battle saying that she likes him. Yuragi then starts to act all weird with Sauga, making him ask Kanade why he let her join the battle. Chocolate joins the council room soon after as she is hungry, and Taoya of the Popular Five goes to her and asks if they can make babies together. Kanade separates them, but suddenly he is forced to either say that he will make every girl like her or all the girls will start loving him and won't forget about it. Thinking that he can't forcefully make the girls say this, he chooses the first option. At home, Chocolate comes in front of Kanade naked and gives him a book that teaches how to make girls say I like you. However, Kanade throws it away as the books given by Chocolate don't have anything worth reading. The next day at school, Aoka tells Yukihara that she said I like you to Kanade. Hearing this, Yukihara gets sad and leaves the classroom. Yukihara feels jealous seeing all the girls expressing their feelings to Kanade. Later, he approaches Kanagi and tries to get her to say that she likes him, but before he could say it, the fanboys of Kanagi arrive and beat up Kanade for making Kanagi say something like this. Kanagi approaches him after he is beaten up and says that she likes him as a person. After he leaves, the fanboys arrive and beat him yet again. He then goes to Ayam, but getting her to say that she likes him is going to be hard considering her personality of treating boys harshly. However, Kanade decides to give it a shot and Iam tells him to beg on her knees if he wants her to say that. Not giving it a second, Kanade gets on his knees but Iam still refuses to say that she likes him. Kanade then learns through absolute choice that her huge chest is made of silicone. He threatens her with it, so she takes him somewhere alone and starts to strip, thinking that he wants to do some frisky stuff with her, but Kanade leaves immediately after she says that she likes him. Later in class, Kanade finds out that Yukihara loves a white piggy character, so he decides to go for the job of acting as the white piggy and wears it as a costume. However, Yukihara doesn't go to the event where the white piggy shows up. Kanade then wanders around the city in the costume and eventually comes across Yukihara. Yukihara spends the rest of the day with him and rants to the white pig, saying that she can never be her true self in front of Kanade, as she thinks that he will start to hate her if he sees that side of her. He eventually gets her to say "I love you," completes his job. Kanade then gets an absolute choice and has to choose between her removing him from the costume or forgetting about her natural state, and the deletion of the folder where he keeps his favorite 2D girls. He passes out due to dehydration and later finds out he chose the second option. At the school, Karasu visits everyone with bandages around his head. Kanade wants him to become the captain of their team, but Karasu just fills out the form and writes his name next to Taoya. Afterward, Kanade tries to make Sarah say that she likes him, but she only agrees to say it if the Reject 5 wins the competition. On the day of the battle, Sauga and Yuragi go face to face in battle to see who can act better. Sauga gives a strong performance, but his acting skills are nothing compared to Yuragi, who makes everyone wonder if she is even acting or if this is another personality of hers. Next up, Kanagi and Aoka face each other in an oily wrestling match. Aoka gets the best of her during the whole competition, but accidentally falls out of the wrestling ring and into the lap of Kanade, ultimately revealing her panties to her. She gets ashamed and runs out of the arena, so the win is given to Kanagi. Afterward, Yukihara and Iam fight with each other about who can better give a better nickname to the other person. Yukihara manages to do enough damage to her mental health, but Iam ends up winning in the end. After their battle concludes, the fourth battle is about to start, but Karasu is nowhere to be seen. As forfeiting the match wouldn't be fun for the audience, Taoya suggests that Chocolate goes in a battle against her. After it is approved by the Utage, who is acting as a judge and a commentator, the two have to battle it out on who can insult the other person better, but Taoya forfeits as he can't insult a cute girl like Chocolate. For the last battle, Kanade and Sarah head face to face with each other. When Sarah arrives at the battle spot, everyone in the crowd, including girls and boys, cheers for him. On the other hand, when Kanade comes to the scene, the crowd goes completely silent. Adding fuel to the fire, Kanade then suddenly has to say an unfunny pun on the mic because of absolute choice and embarrasses himself even more. Their battle is revealed to be a simple rock, paper, and scissors game, and Kanade manages to come out on top. After he wins, Kanade tells Sarah to keep her end of the bargain. Sarah goes to the mic and says "I love you" to Kanade in front of everyone before hugging her tightly. Seeing that their precious Sarah is in love with someone like Kanade, the crowd starts to grow berserk. Kanade realizes that his mission still isn't complete and he has to make Chocolate say those words too. When she says "I love you" to him, Kanade's mission is finally complete, but the whole crowd gets even angry afterwards and starts throwing stuff at the scene. Amongst the thrown items is a shoe that hits Kanade's face right in the middle. Because of what happened yesterday, Kanade is forced to sneak around and go to the school, as he is hated by everyone in the school now. He gets caught multiple times and gets beaten to pulps. Afterward, both Yukihara and Aoka start acting weirder than usual with Kanade in the class. Sarah then arrives out of nowhere and hugs Kanata from behind and takes him somewhere alone. Kanade asks her why she is pulling a stunt like that. Sarah asks Kanade if he has ever loved someone in his life. Kanade remembers that he used to be quite popular before but never felt any kind of romantic feelings towards someone. Sarah then says that the job of loving him should be done by someone else and leaves. He then goes back to the class and faces a tough choice to either hug Yukihara, Aoka, or Chocolate because of absolute choice. Kanade decides to jug Chocolate, but she tells him to step away, as doing something like this in public is wrong and they should be saved for when they are alone. Kanade thinks that Chocolate is acting strange and he starts to get stuff thrown at him, but his classmates for hugging her. Chocolate comes to his defense and reveals that she has regained her memories. Hearing this, Kanade takes her to the roof and Chocolate tells him that she started to return to her former self when she got hit in the head, but she needed a final catalyst to completely regain her memories, and Kanade's hug did that job. Yukihara hears their conversation but goes away in jealousy soon after. Later at home, Chocolate makes delicious food for Kanade and is waiting for him to eat his food so she can get started, but Kanade tells her to just eat with her. He remembers the previous Chocolate who used to just stuff herself with food. Afterward, Chocolate decides to help him eat food and hand feeds him only to get embarrassed afterward. She even goes as far as to offer to wash him, but Canaid refuses. Later, he learns about her and Chocolate tells him that she is a servant of God but lost her memories and started to goof around. The god, when she was normal, had an affair and got pregnant, so the current god took her place. Hearing all this, Canaid thinks that there is a third god that he doesn't know about. Out of nowhere, Chocolate then expresses her love for Canaid and tries to approach him for a kiss, but Canaid refuses her continuously. Seeing him not willing to kiss her, she tries to force herself on Canaid, which makes Canaid panics and he causes something to fall on her head. She gets returned back to her old self and starts to munch down on food later, but Canaid thinks that she is still better than her other personality. Later at school, everyone is happy to see Chocolate return back to her normal self, as well as she acted differently in front of them too when Canaid hugged her. When Yukihara asks Canaid about what happened to her, he tells her that she lost her memories and got them back, even though it is the other way around. Afterward, Sarah gives everyone among the rejected 5 a ticket to an amusement park called Aqua Galaxy. Thinking that she now has to wear a swimsuit, Yukihara starts to feel bad as her chest size is less than everyone else. In the end, Canaid receives yet another mission that states that he has to take a picture of Alka crying. Reading the message, Canaid wonders if Alka even cries at all. As she didn't accept the ticket, Canaid chases after her and gives her the ticket. She accepts, saying that she will feed it to her pet goat even though she doesn't have one. Later, Yudige drives everyone to the amusement park and scares all of them with her reckless driving. Before coming here, Chocolate gives yet another book to Canaid, but this time it turns out to be useful as it tells him how to extract onion juice that can help him make Alka cry. On the way, Canaid has to face yet another absolute choice and chooses the option that says that he will randomly spill out what is going on in his mind. After reaching the park, he has to decide whether he will wear no shorts or wear shorts with the smallest in humanity's history written on it. He chooses the latter and goes outside, but has to lift Yudige up in the air because of absolute choice. Yudige doesn't mind it as he understands him, but she ends up slapping when Canaid tells her that her chest is small because of the absolute choice he received when he was in the car. He then encounters the other girls and all of them are having a good time. Yukihara also arrives there even though she didn't want to. Canaid then runs into the girls from the popular 5. Sarah gives him hints on how to complete his mission, which makes him think about how she knows about the mission. He then runs into Iam and Yuragi having a battle with each other using the boys that follow them. Canaid looks for Alka but finds her nowhere to be seen. He runs into Sarah again, who tells her that he will find him around the roller coaster. She tells him to take care of everyone and reminds him now to cheat as he will regret it. Yukihara then runs into Canaid and starts blushing when Canaid compliments her looks. She gets happy internally, but being the person that she is, she ridicules him instead. Canaid then goes to the roller coaster area and finds Kanagi scared out of her wits because she took the roller coaster with Alka. Alka makes Canaid take the roller coaster as well and he panics through the whole ride. He accidentally grabs her chest but doesn't remember it as he went unconscious during the ride. Not getting close to his goal, Canaid decides to unload the onion juice in the toy gun and plans to shoot it in her eyes, but before he could do it, Absolute Choice gives him 2 options out of nowhere. He either has to shoot the gun up his behind with 10 times the intensity, or up his nose for 2 times the intensity. He decides to do the latter and shouts in pain. Sarah, who witnessed all this, thinks that she told that stupid Canaid to not cheat. Himself in the nose with the onion juice, the other girls arrive and suggest that they go to a haunted house. Alka refuses as she thinks that it is quite childish. Hearing this, Canaid thinks that she is just bluffing and actually gets scared easily. As they walk around the haunted house, Alka gets scared to death by literally anything. They encounter an ugly monster on their way and Alka throws Canaid's camera on it, causing the camera to break. She then runs off and Canaid chases after her, only to see her not acting like herself and behaving even more as a child than she normally does. She gets Canaid to carry her on his back. They then encounter a monster and run away from it, only to find 2 ways to go. On the right way, Canaid can complete his mission, but he decides to go to the left for Alka's sake as it leads to the exit. When they are outside, Canaid accidentally falls on top of her, which makes Alka return to her normal self. Alka doesn't remember much, but remembers that Canaid was with her the whole time in the cave and starts to cry because she is getting an unexplainable feeling in her heart. Sarah then arrives at the scene with a camera so Canaid can take a picture of her crying. After he takes the picture, Chocolate gets jealous. When Canaid visits her, she acts differently as she has a fuzzy feeling in her heart and goes away from him. Sarah then comes again and tells him that he can break the curse if he falls in love with someone. Hearing this, Canaid asks about who she truly is, but Sarah doesn't answer and says that he doesn't have much time left. He confronts Chocolate and tells her about what Sarah said, but she ignores what he says and expresses her love for Kanade. Seeing her hugging Kanade, Yukihira and Aoka get jealous and Kanade receives an absolute choice where he has to choose who to confess his love to amongst Chocolate, Yukihira, Aoka, while also giving him a fourth option that says that something unexplained will happen at the park. Thinking that he can't betray the feelings of anyone, Kanade chooses the fourth option. He tells about the option to Yutage, who panics hearing that Kanade chose that option. Seeing her reaction, Kanade thinks that the park might be reduced to smithereens, so he decides to go to the radio tower at the park to tell everyone to leave. As he makes his way towards the tower, Chocolate arrives with him and they encounter a bunch of familiar figures on their way. When they reach the tower, Kanade opens the mic to tell everyone to leave, but Chocolate cuts him off and tells him to tell her about his feelings. Kanade says that he likes her too, but not in the way she wants. He is being honest as he doesn't want to lie and half-heartedly reply to someone who is important to him. Hearing this, Chocolate tells him that she still loves him and that the mic is still on. They go back and see snow falling from the sky. Everyone starts to enjoy the snow and play different games using the snow. In the end, Kanade still suffers from absolute choice, but his battle with the curse still rages on. That's all for today. How do you think the story of my mental choices are completely interfering with my school proceeds from this point? Let us know in the comments down below. Do leave a like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content.